Culture shock. You cannot discover new oceans unless you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. André Gide. 1986. The flight was long and my attempts at sleep were restless. Upon landing in Tel Aviv, we were guided onto a bus organized by the agency that was waiting to take us to Jerusalem. As the bus ascended the desert hills of Mount Zion, I looked at the landscape of small trees planted by Jews from around the world. They transformed once barren desert into fertile land along the hillsides. The sight filled me with a sense of awe and connection to the land. One of those trees is mine, I realized. Jerusalem, the city of David, nestled in the Judean mountains, unfolded before us. A city sacred to Christians, Muslims, and Jews, disputed as the capital by both Israel and Palestine. Our destination was the Givat Ram campus, designed by the renowned Jewish Brazilian David Resnick. Givat Ram was originally designed and built to serve as the university buildings when access to the main campus on Mount Scopus was restricted after the 1948 War of Independence. After the Six-Day War in 1967, the campus on Mount Scopus became safe again, and the university reestablished its activities there. The Givat Ram campus housed significant government structures, including the Knesset, national parliament, a national museum, a synagogue, a library, and the International Academy of the Hebrew Language, which would be our home for the summer. I got off the bus and felt the desert heat envelope my body. Thankfully, a cool breeze made it bearable. I stood there, unsure of what was going to happen next. My nervous system was on overdrive, frozen in a state of anxiety. I just looked and listened while a woman read off our names from a list. "Please follow the path lined with figs," she said to us in English, with an Israeli accent. What do figs look like, I thought, looking around. They dropped our bags off at the dorms, and I went off with the others in search of the path lined with fig trees. I quickly learned to recognize these trees, appreciating their broad leaves that formed a wonderful green canopy, providing shade and respite from the Middle Eastern sun. The figs grew in clusters shaped like teardrops hanging from the trees and offered us additional shelter. The path wove down through light-colored limestone buildings until we arrived at the dormitories. Entering the room, a mix of relief and fear engulfed me. 2 single cots, a shared desk, and dressers filled the simple space. I sat down on the bed, feeling the unfamiliarity of everything wash over me. I didn't feel as comfortable as I had the summer before. This time I was alone. Jet lag ushered in early sleep, only awakening me in the middle of the night. Anxiety overwhelmed me as I thought about tomorrow's uncertainties, and for the first time in my life, I had to surrender to the weight of solitude until I fell asleep again. The day after our arrival, I joined a group of students waiting at the bus stop to go to Mount Scopus campus to open a bank account. This was my first unchaperoned outing in Israel. No one was there to organize my time or help me get around. Gone were the days of having a tour guide. To avoid getting lost, I followed the group quietly, still in shock from the foreign surroundings. A green and white Mercedes bus with the big letters Egged written across the front pulled up and opened its doors. I chose a seat at the back, preferring solitude over socializing. The previous summer, I had sat in the front of the bus and laughed loudly with my friends, but this summer, privacy felt more natural to me. Peering out the window, I found it unusual to see so many German cars on the road. In the 80s, Japan and Korea adhered to the Arab boycott of Israel, but German cars were exempt from import duties as a gesture of reparation for Jewish losses during the war. Mercedes also extended discounts to Israelis, which explains why these cars were popular among taxis, despite the historical irony. The bus entered the main station in central Jerusalem, a vibrant hub full of activity. The station was abuzz, bustling with commuters rushing to catch their buses, vendors selling snacks and drinks, and travelers navigating their way through the maze of platforms and corridors. There was a constant hum of conversations in multiple languages that filled the air, mingling with the announcements blaring from the loudspeakers overhead in Hebrew, Arabic, and English. It still felt strange to see soldiers with guns either returning to the base or on leave. Lines of buses waited at the platforms, with their engines rumbling as they prepared for departure. I watched the passengers queue up, clutching their tickets and luggage, while others weaved through the crowd trying to locate the right platform for their destinations. The scent of freshly brewed coffee drifted from the nearby cafe. Despite the hustle and bustle, there was a sense of orderliness to the chaos. Security personnel patrolled the station, ensuring the safety of the passengers, while ticket agents assisted those in need of guidance. Among the diversity of faces and cultures that I saw, I could feel a shared sense of purpose. Everyone there was on a journey, whether a daily commute, a pilgrimage, or a visit to family and friends. They were all traveling somewhere. In this central bus station in Jerusalem, the pulse of the city beat strongly, connecting people from all walks of life and making its vibrant tapestry come alive. My senses were in a heightened state of overwhelm, so I kept close to the group, following them as we navigated the labyrinth of people and buses until we found our platform. Waiting at the platform, I could smell the scents of street food wafting through the air, mingling with the diesel fumes from departing buses. I was shaken out of my observations when the university bus approached, and a frenzy of pushing and shoving erupted. At first I was offended, but I quickly adapted and got on the bus. I took my seat as the bus began its winding journey through the narrow streets of Jerusalem, until we reached a stone-hued commercial plaza that housed Bank Leumi. Stepping inside the doors, the absence of air conditioning struck me like a wave of heat. "Oh my God," I lamented to myself. "They don't use air conditioning in the bank." I finished filling out the obligatory bureaucratic paperwork, and a tall, dark-haired man ushered me into his office wearing a mix of khaki shorts, a casual button-down shirt, and Israeli-made sandals. He spoke perfect English, so I put away my pocket Hebrew-English dictionary. After my account was opened, exhaustion from jet lag quickly took over, and all I wanted was to retreat to my dorm room. Adjusting to my new environment was draining my energy levels. The people in Israel were much more direct and assertive compared to the politeness and reserve often found in Canadian culture. The fast-paced lifestyle, loud conversations, and crowded streets startled my senses. The language barrier made everyday tasks like shopping, traveling on public transportation, and communicating with the locals particularly exhausting in those early days. To add to the culture shock I was feeling on the Givat Ram campus, I struggled with feelings of loneliness, missing my friends from back home. Socializing felt like an alien concept, something I used to do very well, and a stark contrast to the group trip the summer before, where I was surrounded by my closest friends. Without them, I found myself losing confidence in my ability to engage with people, which created a growing sense of social exclusion. I was confused and felt as if I didn't fit in anywhere. When Hebrew studies known as Ulpan began, I plunged into the challenge of mastering a language distinct from my mother tongue, complete with a new alphabet and intricate linguistic nuances. The sentence structure, verbs, conjugation, and meanings were very different. Reading Hebrew was hard because as soon as you learn how to read the vowels, they're taken out of the words. Imagine reading this page without any vowels. I never could understand the reason for this, but the Israelis seemed to manage just fine. They taught us lyrics to famous songs by singers such as Arik Einstein. Arik was one of the most popular artists on the radio at that time, with over 500 original songs during the 50 years of his career. Ehud Banai, another singer from the 80s, came from a very talented family of actors and singers and made his way into our classroom. My initial feelings of isolation filled me with the motivation to learn the Hebrew language and communicate with the locals. As overwhelmed as I felt, I was determined to understand the people and how they lived and go deeper into this Middle Eastern culture, so foreign from anything I knew. I never noticed any of this when I had visited with the group. My focus was just with the group. I found learning Hebrew very challenging, but as I navigated this linguistic and cultural maze, my perspective on life shifted. The experience of being a tourist differed significantly from the reality of being an immigrant.